I was only minutes away from walking down the aisle when my 3-year-old grandson suddenly grabbed my hand. I thought he wanted me to fix his little suit before the ceremony began. I knelt down and smiled at him. Then he looked directly into my eyes and whispered, "Grandpa, she hurt Mommy while you were gone." I froze. I looked toward my future wife and for a moment I could not understand what I had just heard. Then my grandson reached into his tiny jacket pocket and pulled out something that made my entire body go cold. What I discovered next turned the happiest day of my life into a day I would never forget. Story. My name is Daniel and I had spent almost a year believing I had finally found happiness again. After losing my first wife several years earlier, I never imagined I would open my heart to someone again. Then I met Claire. She was kind when we first met. She listened to me. She remembered little things about my family, and she seemed especially loving toward my daughter Emily and her 3-year-old son Noah. At least that was what I believed. Emily was my only daughter and Noah was the center of my world. He was small for his age but incredibly observant. He noticed things adults often ignored. When he laughed, the entire room seemed brighter. When he was scared, he usually ran straight to me. Claire knew how much Noah meant to me. She often told me that she wanted to become part of our family and that she would treat Emily and Noah like her own. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. The wedding was supposed to be the beginning of a new chapter. The hall was decorated. The guests were arriving. The music was ready. My suit was pressed and waiting. Claire was in another room preparing for the ceremony. I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking that life had finally given me another chance. Then Noah came running toward me. He was wearing a tiny dark suit that looked almost too big for his little body. He grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a quiet corner. I laughed and said, "Noah, what happened?" He did not laugh. Instead, he looked around as if he was afraid someone might hear him. Then he whispered, "Grandpa, she hurt Mommy while you were gone." At first I thought I had misunderstood him. I knelt down and adjusted his tie. I asked him what he meant. He looked toward the hallway where Claire was standing a few minutes earlier. Then he reached inside his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small photograph. My hand started shaking when I saw it. It was a picture of Emily. There was a dark mark on her arm. I stared at the photograph and asked Noah where he got it. He said Mommy gave it to me. Then he said something that frightened me even more. Mommy said not to tell Grandpa. I felt as if the air had disappeared from the room. I asked him if Claire had hurt Emily. Noah nodded, but I remembered something important. Emily had recently started avoiding conversations about Claire. Whenever I asked if everything was fine, she always smiled and said yes. I had assumed she was simply nervous about the wedding. Now I wondered whether that smile had been hiding something. I found Emily in a quiet room near the back of the hall. She looked at me and immediately knew something was wrong. I showed her the photograph. Her face changed. She did not speak. I asked her directly if Claire had hurt her. For several seconds she just stared at the floor. Then she started crying. She told me there had been incidents while I was away. She said Claire had become angry with her over small things. At first it was insults and shouting. Then there were moments when Claire grabbed her arm and pushed her. Emily said she had been afraid to tell me because she believed I would choose Claire over her. That sentence broke my heart. I had spent months planning a wedding while my own daughter had been carrying fear inside our family. I asked why she never told me. She said because Claire always apologized afterward. She said Claire would tell her that she was stressed and that it would never happen again. But according to Emily, it kept happening. I asked her why she had allowed Noah to be around Claire. Emily looked at me and said she had tried to protect him. She said Noah had started becoming nervous whenever Claire raised her voice. Suddenly, little things I had ignored began making sense. The way Noah sometimes became silent when Claire entered a room. The way Emily stopped bringing Noah to certain family gatherings. The way Claire became defensive whenever I asked about tension between them. I had explained every warning sign away because I wanted my wedding to work. Now I understood something painful. Sometimes the person closest to you can see danger long before you are willing to admit it. I returned to the main hall. The music was ready. The guests were waiting. Claire was standing near the entrance in her wedding dress. She smiled when she saw me. Then she noticed Emily standing behind me. Her smile disappeared. She asked what was happening. I did not shout. I did not create a scene. I simply told her that the wedding was over. She stared at me as though I had lost my mind. She demanded to know what Emily had said. I told her that this was no longer about explanations. It was about my daughter and my grandson feeling unsafe. Claire denied everything. She said Emily had misunderstood her. She said Noah was too young to understand what he was saying. But that was the moment I remembered what the child protection experts warn adults about. When a child discloses possible abuse, the safest response is to listen carefully, reassure the child that they did the right thing by speaking, and avoid confronting the alleged abuser in a way that could increase danger. He did not understand investigations. He did not know what evidence meant. He only knew that his mother was hurt and that Grandpa needed to know. That tiny child had done something incredibly important. He spoke, and because he spoke, an adult finally listened. I also learned that children may not always explain what happened clearly. They can be frightened, confused, or ashamed. Experts recommend taking disclosures seriously without pressuring children for unnecessary details. Months later, I asked Noah if he remembered the wedding day. He looked at me and smiled. Then he said, "Grandpa, you listened to me." Those 5 words stayed with me, because that was the real lesson. I thought I was the adult protecting my grandson, but that day my grandson reminded me that protecting a family sometimes begins with listening to the smallest voice in the room. I used to think the hardest moment of that day was calling off my wedding. I was wrong. The hardest moment was realizing how close I had come to ignoring the warning because I wanted to believe everything was perfect. Noah did not understand the consequences of speaking up. He only knew something was wrong. His courage gave his mother a voice and gave me the chance to protect my family. Sometimes the truth does not arrive with a dramatic announcement. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet voice of a child holding your hand. And when that voice asks you to listen, you should never ignore it.